What up, what up? It's your boy Dwell, a.k.a. Mr. J, aquí en la casa, coming at you sideways with another episode of Las Different Voices. Today, I got a very, very special guest. I appreciate you coming through. Manny Escamilla, one of Santana's own. Right now, he's running for council, right?
Yep. Yeah, running City Council Ward 6 right now.
Ward 6, and I know you had a debate right now, so you've been pretty busy these past days, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. No, it's getting busier. So the last 6 days are pretty much utter chaos. A lot of the work's already done by now, but it's still chaotic for the last few days.
Oh man, what time you been like pretty much going to bed, if you don't mind asking?
Oh no, well like I'm a night owl, so like I usually can't go to bed like before like at least like 1 p.m. like or 1 a.m.
Oh damn, so it's still early for you right now.
Yeah, it's still early. Still got some time. So like yeah.
And I'm al revés. By this time I'm crashing out, man.
Oh really? Oh good.
But I do to stay up. I gotta prepare myself mentally, and I could do it. But if I don't have like plans to stay up late,
yeah,
by 9 my body shuts down. So
all right.
So, but it's hard, it's hard to do.
Yeah, well, thanks for making time. I know it was like outside of your regular interview hours.
No, and I'm excited. Thank you. I appreciate you. I it's hard because I ask people, and it sometimes it's just hard to bring people into, and I'm happy and I'm glad. I got excited when you responded, and I was like, yeah. So I gotta make it work. It all worked. I'm like, I gotta make it work because maybe I won't get another shot. So I thank you for coming by. I appreciate it. I'm happy. Like I said, I'm happy that you're here, and hopefully you are too.
Yeah, I am.
How was your debate? You were coming from a debate, right?
Yeah, no, it was totally strange. So it was this group that's a little bit more like conservative, but it's interesting just because they threw a debate, right? Normally, it's probably not a good idea to have a debate like this close to the election. It's harder to get everyone in line, and it does you get less people that are able to actually watch it afterwards. So it is probably good to like do it earlier. But again, it's a group of community members that got together. They're an interesting group, I would say that, like, at least for me, right, I consider myself a little bit left of center, a little bit more on the progressive Bernie side of the Democratic Party, and these folks are extremely conservative, right? So it was a lot of really conservative individuals there, but at the end of the day, really kind of revolving around the issues that actually impact Santa Ana residents. That's where something we have to work with everybody here, and there's things that we disagree on, but at the same time, we agree that we want to make our community a better place, and then that's we try to steer the debate towards. I got a little crazy at the end, though. It's a little funny. Yeah,
you were telling me, we were talking real quick about it. You were telling me that I was surprised that it's a like hardcore Republican right here in Santana, like a group, like that surprised me. And on top of that, you were saying there was a lot of brown men, like
So it's a very conservative, so extremely conservative Latino Republican sort of organization. So officially they're nonpartisan, but they very much like in the Republican extremely conservative Republican camp. But they're still members of our community, and that's one of those things where for me. It's smaller percentage, obviously, right? So I think right now, like in my district, there may be only about 10% of the registered voters, but there's still a constituency, right? They say 1 out of 10 people. You want to be able to talk to at least 1 out of 10. You don't want to write people off, just because of party affiliation. Again, for me as a city, aspiring to be a city council member, it's really about who lives here, and anyone that lives here.
And they ask you questions that make you feel uncomfortable, or no? Pretty much, right?
Oh no, there's some tough questions, but it's like questions on like how do I feel about the constitutional protections for abortion access. That was one that came up. There was conversations around I think there wasn't anything that was like too out of the ordinary, because a lot of it was really around homelessness, just like general safety concerns, and because of the way that it was structured, honestly, we only got maybe about like 5 minutes to speak a piece. So we're waiting there a long time. We only got like about 5 minutes. It was more just like showing up and doing that. But,
how long was it?
It started at 6 and it ended about 8:30, but they were probably about 45 minutes behind schedule.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is that normal, pretty much?
That's not normal.
No, like on time usually for stuff like that.
For a debate, you're usually a little bit more on time. Just it does go over, but usually not by that much, because it's usually if you're doing it, folks have like fairly tight schedules, so then you're like, hey, I can be here from this hour to this next hour, and after that, I gotta go somewhere else.
Today is You know what? Is today Dia de los Muertos?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, a lot of people are in a lot of different places today.
I know it is. I just didn't grow up too much as accustomed to Dia de los Muertos. Yeah. My family didn't really. We're from Mexico. Well, my family is, but we didn't get accustomed to that. That's why I'm like, is it or is it not?
Yeah.
Speaking of Dia de los Muertos, how is your Halloween weekend? Because pretty much it was Friday's Halloween weekend, and
I wish I had a Halloween weekend.
It's been working.
Yeah, well, spent it on the campaign trail. So we basically, our big thing was you look up some of these photos. It was really cool. We got all of the different candidates that were on a slate together. So basically, supporting different candidates here. So you gotta name them all, give them all a shout out, right? So it's Ward. Let's see, the Ward 2 race, Benjamin Vasquez. The Ward 4 race, Amelia Mejia. Myself in the Ward 6 race, Vicente Sarmiento for supervisor, and then Sal Tinajero for mayor, along with Caitlin Brazier for the school board. So basically we got all our campaigns together, and then like really early on a Sunday, so the day after Halloween, basically Saturday, before Halloween's more real, the party night.
Yes. Pretty much Monday, everybody comes out for a little bit and come back inside.
Yeah, the Mondays for the kids, Saturdays for the parents, sort of thing. But we all got together early that Sunday. So like for me, Saturday night, I was like, you know what, I can't go out. Like I have to be up early to go do this massive outreach effort, and we had pretty much spent most of Saturday doing that, right? So I think each day we walk about like 6 miles, just as far as like the neighborhoods go, get all our volunteers together. So and that's pretty much been most of my weekends since June.
Man, busy. Yeah. And do you consider it fun?
I enjoy talking to people. That's a big thing, because it's not just
that's good.
Yeah, because it's not just like how do I say this, like talking to political people, right? It's more like just talking to the gente, like talking to your family, your neighbors, feeling like you're part of a community. And a lot of the work that I used to do for the city was really around history, right? So it was like now every community and every place I go to, like I take photos of the altares, I take photos of the way that people do their gardens, I take photos of the like what is it, the graffiti on the cement, right? So I know that like Bob Loves Jess 1978, like
oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. I see that all the time. That's a trip.
Yeah, so you just get to see that, and like that to me is like really enjoyable. And you get to be outside, and I think we have a really beautiful city. It's really interesting, like from a lot of different perspectives. So even when I'm out there, it's like helping me with my history work. It's helping me with like as a planner. So that's what I do for a living now, is like as a city planner.
Oh, okay.
So then it's like you just get to see the way that people deal with spaces, and like how like it can be vibrant or it can be like seen as like something else. So I just really love the experience of going out there.
It's a nice city, and then you're walking around a good amount. You're not just driving, right?
Exactly. Yeah, driving would be horrible.
You see the real like that, you see the real part of the community. It's deep, the roots, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
like that, and that's as long as you're having fun, that's what makes it good.
Yeah,
I respect that.
Yeah, and you have fun when you have love for the city, right? You have love for the city and its people.
Yeah. How's I'm gonna be going back and forth.
Yeah, it's all good.
Questions because I wrote a couple of them. And I was like, I'm gonna ask them these, so they might go up and down. I'll try to put it in order, but I do want to ask this. I know I told you earlier. I met you once because you were at a house I was living at. And what ward were you running at that time? Let's just say before this one.
Yeah, that's it. Like I'm trying to remember. I think it was the. I
think it was Thornton Park ward. Is that ward? No,
you
never did that one.
Well, it was the. It was in 2019 against Phil Becerra. So I was living probably the street over, right? Because that was when I was on Highland. So I grew up on Highland Street.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
because I remember you telling me that. So and it was pretty. I think we were on Cubbon.
So we're on Cubbon. Yeah, you're really close.
So it's close. So yeah, what ward was it?
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna have to like go back, but I want to say it was 3. Like they redid all the numbers, but
yeah, you were saying that. So now you're doing Ward 6, right?
Yeah. So they redrew the lines again. So it was weird. Like I basically lived in like 3 neighborhoods like in my time that I've lived here. So it's been Central City, which is basically Highland Rate, like that middle part of the city. I lived in East Side, and then I've lived in French Park. So I've been like I've rotated between like those 3 neighborhoods like pretty much my whole life. Yeah.
Maybe if you don't mind me asking, because I grew up on East Side pretty much my whole life.
Oh, okay, yeah.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm 36.
36. Oh, I'm 34, so you're still a little older than me. What school did you go to?
So I went to Immaculate Heart of Mary. So that's
okay.
Yeah, so I grew up mostly on Highland. Yeah.
Oh, so no Century, no nothing like that.
Nah, so yeah, I ended up doing Immaculate Heart.
That's a high school too?
No, it's just it's like St. Joseph, so it's like for like kindergarten through 8th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did that, and I did 2 years modern day, 2 years middle college. And
okay, cool.
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So Ward 6, you want to tell us what neighborhood that is?
Yeah, so the way I say it, it's pretty much most of the east side of Main Street from 17th down to Dyer, minus East Side, plus Madison Park, plus Wilshire Square. So you're looking at Delhi, Cedar Evergreen. Let's see, you got Lacey, French Park, French Court, and you got the mini standard.
It's all this side of Santana, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like a little blob now. It used to be like really easy, where like it used to basically be everything on the east side of Main Street was the district. But the incumbent like lived over here, so they drew a different district for him to basically get all of like Memorial Park.
Oh, okay. Because I see you. I recently started following you, and I was like, cool. He started following me. That's why too I hit you up, because I was like, oh, that's cool. But I see that you post French Park. So that's part of.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, so
which is Logan too, right?
In Logan. Yeah, it is Logan neighborhood.
Is French? It's not two, right? It's the same.
No, they're two distinct neighborhoods. So the thing, there's like a really interesting history there. So like, French Park was basically like the fanciest part of the city when it first developed. So like we're talking like 1890s and like early 1900s. So this is before like Floral Park. This was basically all the bankers in the county. Like if you had like major businesses, you had like a large Victorian house that was there in French Park.
Wow.
A lot of them got demolished. So you see that big parking lot that's kind of there behind the probation office.
Oh yeah,
that was like a row of like gigantic houses, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
like it was like two rows of them, and it was basically they would always call it the equivalent of Nob Hill in San Francisco, as far as like where all the rich investors used to live. So
that's some cool history. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like, and there's got some really cool things right there. There was like this Kruger's Castle. Like it was just like it's really interesting, like set of buildings. So you still have some of them that are left over there, but that was the fancy part of town, right? But next to the railroad track, so like Logan was basically placed between two railroad tracks. Only one of them's there right now. So that's really where everything was loaded and unloaded. So it was a lot of industrial. It was a lot of just kind of like businesses, and it was also like where there was a Mexican barrio that emerged kind of naturally, where it was like a lot of small lots that you could basically get a house off of a railroad car, and you would put it there on this little piece of property, and it was like board on board construction, right? So just basically like a little plank, attached to another plank, attached to another plank, and then that's how the houses were made.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like old school, but it was like one of the only places initially in the city where Mexicans could own property.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so
that's
like
cool.
So it has a totally different history. So like even though they're so close together, they were literally on the other side of the tracks. It's just that you don't see those tracks anymore because that's now oh my god, Santiago Street. So that used to be another rail line there.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I thought for some reason Ward 6 was just that area.
Oh, okay.
But it's pretty much stretches out to
Logan?
Pretty much Delhi side.
Yeah, Delhi.
Which that's the last neighborhood, pretty much. Right?
Yeah, and then it's just like some of the industrial side too. So it curves up a little bit. So we get like a little bit of the industrial on the other side, but it's mostly the industrial on like the side of the 55.
So let me ask you this, because a lot of things in Santana, they're pretty much divided. Like for certain people, we're like for some, you're literally talking like geographical. Those names are on the map. It's part of the names, part of the. But for some people, as we're saying these names, we're probably saying gang neighborhoods. You being part of, and you got big gangs. You got the Delhi gang, Logan, French Park. Those are the old school gangs. You got Lopers in that area. So you got big gangs, man. How does that work? Like you being part of Ward 6. What type of movements do you do in regards to control those situations?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting question, and one that I wish more people would ask, because right now, like the way that we always see it is that there's always like this thought of, crack down on all gangs all the time, like this like enforce. And there's like a certain part of it, like you need law enforcement, but without understanding like, hey, these different neighborhoods with their various histories and kind of the reasons why fights break out between different groups, like it's really important to understand that. So one of the things that, for me at least, I'm looking to invest more in is like, how do you have those like kind of peace mediators that know like the streets, that know the different people that are involved, and basically what you're trying to do is to, a lot of the life cycles that we have for my family members, for like family members that we know, it's like they basically, went through it. And then when they're older and they have kids, they're like, oh man, now I get it. Like now I don't want to do this. They have like their family, their business, they got out of the lifestyle. What we basically need to do is like try to find ways that, some of the young kids that are the ones that are disproportionately dying and disproportionately killing each other, how we can kind of get them to that next stage of being, hey, no, it's like there's a different sort of way to approach life. But really some of the only people that are going to be able to make those connections with those kids are people that have experienced similar things, right?
Okay. Yes.
So like part of that is like identifying who those people can be, empowering them to go out into the community, and just, part of it ends up being like, hey, like finding that commonness about, like, you're santanero, you have, you're Mexican, Salvadorian, you're Latino, or you come from a working class neighborhood or your background, and like getting people to identify with that, and like, giving them something else that's, not as violent of an outlet. So it is, on a one-on-one basis, like, hey, can you convince a kid to like leave the gun at home that day,
Yeah.
And that's what it ends up taking.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how the streets are now compared to gangs, but I know maybe in past times they were a little bit more active. I know it seems like Santaana, I'm pretty sure there's still people doing their mess, but it seems a little bit more calm for some reason. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad, because obviously we don't want everybody killing each other neither,
Yeah.
But you do have some, like I said, those are tough neighborhoods, and I know, well, they're big. On top of that, they're those gangs have a lot of members, so they're big gangs,
Yeah. I love them, generations deep.
Yeah. So they're pretty old. I think even like 100 years, one or two of them, not to be exact, but just stating they're old. And it's a big role, It's a good thing to think about. I know it's hard for those people even prior to you, 20 years before, have tried doing things, and it's kind of, I guess, impossible to get rid of, like gangs, drugs, violence. It's pretty much, it's gonna be on forever. But maybe just a thought of you, like, what would you do? You know what I mean? What if you can do something?
Yeah, and I think part of that is like working with the people that are directly involved and willing to have those conversations. So part of it's not just public safety from the side of only enforcement. It's about talking to people and being like, hey, what's going on? Like, how can we help? It's that early like support for someone, like, because we know that kids that have parents that are in the system are more likely then to grow up and also be part of that system. So it's like, how do you like say, like, kid, we're not like saying that this is your only shot. We're saying that, hey, we know that you have it hard and life's not fair for you, but we want to be out there to help you. You're part of a caring, loving community, and what can we do to support you in this time? And then like having to go through that, but making sure that it's not just a one-off, but that we have a community that does care and watch out for each other. Because that's one of the things
we need that. Yeah,
because one of the things that I always tell people is that Santaana, for all of the social demographics that we have, right, as far as like poverty level, education level, like overcrowding, all this stuff, we actually do a lot better than statistically we're supposed to be doing. And I think a lot of that does come down to that we have a lot of love for each other, and we have like very strong, tight-knit communities that do watch out for each other, and that's possible. So we're actually doing better than we probably should be doing based on just basic poverty, basic overcrowding, basic like stats.
Yeah, it's a cool city. Like I said, I've grew up here, and you could get a taste of everything, you know? So it's a good city. I mean, I know it has its bad times, its good times, but I've loved growing up here. I've had my and my wife wanted to grow up here. She said we're planning, like, everybody's moving to Corona, and I will ask some questions about that. But we're like, because it's cheaper.
Yeah, you can afford. Yeah,
it's cheaper up there. Not just Corona, but up. Away from
upland.
Here, away from here.
Yeah,
and we're like, one way or another, she's educated. She has a master's and stuff, and I've been working all my life, but it's still hard to. You need two incomes, in Orange County, pretty much, unless you're balling, making thousands a week. But it's like we had to stay, we had to stay, and we're like, one way or another, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So we stayed. Also, speaking of Ward 6, you got speaking of gangs and stuff like that, it's just tough because, like I said, now that you told me what Ward 6 is, now I know what it is. Like I said, I grew up in Santaana. I grew up more on that area. So you also got the train tracks, which means you got a lot of homelessness.
Yeah, you did
in that area. I think if everywhere's homelessness now. Santaana has its pockets of people posting up, but you got the train tracks running all across.
Yep,
Santaana.
that's a big one. Yeah.
So you got a big cushion. You got a big ball of homelessness right there. So
yeah.
What situations or what things you think can be done in regards to that, or how would you approach that situation?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So that's one of the unique things about Ward 6, and it does impact the entire ward. So it goes all the way from our downtown over to the south end of it on Dyer, right? So it's like the entire section of the city. So what I wanted to do, and I've been advocating for, is to do basically a federal rails to trails program. And basically that just means that you end up having the city buy the rail line and like that right away, and then you convert it to something else, right? So for me, I would basically want to redo the Pacific Electric Bike Trail and have that be like the Union Pacific Bike Trail or something. We would basically like south of First Street, we would basically take it up, or maybe a little bit kind of connecting to the what is it, the train station, and then have it, because like right above First Street, you never notice it when you're in the car, but if you're on foot and you're at the rail line and where Freddie's at, they can like see that little bridge right outside their window, right? Because they have two bridges, a pedestrian one and then like the one for the main line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's like two little bridges there. It's hard to notice when you're just going under.
Yeah, the other I didn't notice the pedestrian one.
Yeah, it was you can convert it potentially into pedestrian one. Right now, it's still another little rail line.
Oh, okay.
But you'd basically start there and create another like bike trail, because then at that point the city could go in, clean it up, basically maintain it, and it would get a lot more active use as far as like people coming up like in and through it. So it doesn't like necessarily remove the problem of people on the streets, but what it does do is create another space where this is an active community resource that then you're not going to have as many people say like, oh, that's where I can go. There's going to need to be another option for them.
Do you say obviously not all the homeless here are from Santana, but are they're pretty much coming from all Orange County?
All Orange County, yeah.
Much?
Yeah, so one of the other things we do need to do is, the way that I see it, I still think the biggest single contributor is the single jail system that we have, right? So there's only one place where a lot of folks end up being processed. So you get arrested, South County, public urination, just something where it's like minor trespassing, or you had a minor theft that you're not going to be arrested for or sent to prison or held on, but you can be processed for, right? So you're going to spend anywhere from like 2 to 24 hours inside the Orange County Central Jail being processed and then being released out into Santa Ana.
Like in your own community, they should have that, you're saying, right?
Yeah,
like
I'm saying at the very least, it should be like right now, the county is divided up into 3 spas, so basically it's service areas for homelessness. So I'm saying that you should also have an equivalent area where basically the north, central, and south spas or areas of the county have their own processing facilities. So anyone that gets arrested there, you're not transporting arrestees basically from all parts of the county only into one.
Yeah.
So for that,
that's what it is, right? After when they get released, they just stay here.
Stay here. They go down East First, because if guy 2 bikes goes up First Street, says like, hey, whatever you want, and we got it over here, East First, and hang out there. Rail lines right there. Then it's like pretty much just like camped out. Yeah. That's it. So like basically you need to break it at like the place. You need to break it like for the hotels that are like just kind of basically run down and like part of that whole underground drug economy. And then you're looking at how people get basically moved in here systematically by government agencies. And in this particular case, it's a lot of law enforcement agencies from other parts of the county that then have the one processing facility here. So that's where I'm just like, hey, we should move that around so it's not just concentrated in one area. The other thing, though, is that the county's either going to be willing to do that, or we're going to have to take it to court. So it's going to be 4 to 5 high-paid city lawyers working on this for 5 years while it goes through a major lawsuit.
Yeah, that's still. It seems like it's still going to be for a while before it starts getting fixed up, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and the other thing that we're looking forward to is there's this new system called the Care Court system that got signed into law. So there is supposed to be the ability to get people basically mandated treatment options. So if you do know someone that's like totally an addict, danger to themselves or danger to others, or just mentally unable to make decisions for themselves, it's going to be easier for someone to intervene to say like, hey, either as a family member, as a medical doctor, or being recommended from one of the law enforcement agencies. And that's where it gets a little tricky, right? It's like, okay, like, are we just going to basically cite everyone and make them go to these programs? There's civil liberties concerns that have been brought up that I think are serious, but not... it shouldn't end the program. We just have to really be aware of them and make sure that people don't have their rights violated. That it's not just another way that someone can say like, oh, well, I don't want you here. Like, we're gonna put you like in an institution for 3 weeks unless you go away. So there's a balancing act there, but it will hopefully help help us with the individuals that we know that really do need the help. I know there's always one person kind of standing outside of First and Main, that's always kind of just like there in one of the medians. He just kind of stares at the window until he like maybe gets money, but the pants are falling down, the shoes like he's holding his shoes, he's not wearing them. It's like things where this person needs like someone to intervene, but he can't be arrested. He's just basically standing in the middle of the street, so he's like, you can't really arrest him. You can't really arrest him for that. And it's going to be a traumatic experience. It's not going to be a positive like encounter. But is there a way that we essentially then say that there should be a social worker there, be like, hey, like trying to get to know this person, and that that trust building does take time, right? When you're that far gone.
Yeah, it's that guy. Like, there's a lot of those guys. Like a lot of people. I see that too. It's not just homelessness. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of mental stuff, like it is, a lot of people are talking about it. One thing is a lot of people are using drugs. Mm-hmm. You can obviously tell, and a lot of people are like just already talking to themselves. Yeah. So it's a big issue. Hopefully worldwide, because it's not just a lot of things that are happening here are happening all around California. Yeah, and other parts.
Yeah, and for at least us, the heroin epidemic or in the fentanyl epidemic was a product of what a particular set of corporate decisions, right? So like Purdue Pharma that basically just like ended up giving everyone OxyContin like all across the US, right? So we're living through like basically the equivalent of what was it, the heroin spike after the Vietnam War, right? Because everyone was like, so it's this very large wave that we're dealing with. The thing that's kind of the only positive there is that opiates, we do have treatment options for it. So then you also have to make treatment accessible for people, not overly concentrating it, but you get someone on Suboxone, then like they have much more of a chance of like making a full recovery and like basically recovering their lives. But you do have to treat people as humans, right? You can't just like discard them, because I think that if that's kind of what our options are, we're going to end up in the same situation where basically people were held against their will, like put off into like facilities out like in the forest and the desert, and just like forgotten. So I don't think that that's necessarily the best way forward, and I don't think we should recreate the same other system we had, which is basically we just arrest everybody and then they go to prison for like 3 or 4 years, and then like that's our solution, right? We just send everyone to prison all the time.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of work. Mm-hmm. But hopefully we get to that point where it gets fixed, like, or help out, help out to where we could start moving and helping, because at the end, obviously, you can't just go around beating them up, taking them in, but like help, help the situation, not just make it disappear. Yeah. Obviously at the end, make it disappear.
But not make them disappear. It's it.
Speaking of train tracks, I saw the some people were posting that the OC train again is gonna cause some issues in downtown Santana.
Oh, okay. Which
what's your take on that? Because I know people are frustrated with that. A lot of people want to party, and a lot of people want to work. They want their business to run. Yeah. And on top of that, other people are probably want whatever they want, but it's affecting people there. What's your take on that? Yeah.
So I think the problem with the streetcar had been pretty much years ago. We already knew that the implementation was going to require what's called a BIF, so a business interruption fund. So LA Metro basically set aside money for construction impacts to businesses that were there, knowing that, hey, construction sucks. There's usually no way around it. So you basically have to pay to maintain, particular businesses that are going to be impacted. So OCTA basically threw up their hands, and it was really more like the lawyers from OCTA, and that was really only like their counsel was like, oh no, we can't do anything about it, even though LA did. So they basically said whatever LA did was illegal, and they couldn't do it over here at OCTA because OCTA follows the law and LA Metro doesn't. It was basically what the argument comes down to. I thought there was enough flexibility to be able to say no, like it's not a gift of public funds, because the public benefit is that you are now implementing a streetcar line that maybe potentially has the ability to be the hub of transit in the city or in the county. So potentially it could be good if you go maybe up to the resort district. So that's one line extension, could go up Harbor, going to basically Anaheim, Disneyland, the convention center, and really be like, okay, that's one connection. Then the other line or other side going down to the airport, UCI, and the Irvine business corridor.
So are they planning to make it that big eventually?
Eventually. So those are it's between there, the UCI line to the airport line, as well as the line to Artesia, which then would basically connect us to the LA Metro system. So because right now, LA Metro is actually investing in the West Santa Ana branch. So they're going to have a metro line that goes straight down the same right of way. So it's the old Pacific Electric right of way. So if you go down to the Watts Towers, it says Santa Ana Boulevard because that's actually Santa Ana Boulevard that goes all the way down to Watts. So the connection should basically be down to Artesia, and then if Orange County puts money in, you can basically connect the rail line all the way to that Artesia stop too.
So Santa Ana Boulevard, this one runs all the way to Watts?
All the way to Watts.
I mean, it changes. It's not Santa Ana Boulevard when you get to Anaheim, right, and stuff like that.
Because it basically becomes the rail line. So once, but once you get to the Watts Towers, the Watts Towers are on Santa Ana Boulevard because it's just like one straight shot. So if you look at it like on Google Maps, you're like, oh, what's this weird line that goes through here? The only thing that's in the way is like one Home Depot in like Garden Grove. Like it's like one random Home Depot that got in the way. Like Garden Grove was like, yeah, Home Depot, we don't care.
Okay, I know which one. No, Garden Grove Boulevard. Huh?
Yeah, the one on Garden Grove Boulevard.
Yeah, that's a trip.
It is.
They just gotta run through it, you know.
Yeah, they're like, I'm sorry, it's gonna get like they're gonna have a train right through the middle of the Home Depot. They might. Yeah, it depends on how much like Home Depot wants to litigate that.
But pretty much it's more of a county issue than why it's not moving. It's not a city issue. It's a county issue.
No, the city should have been more aggressive because part of the problem ended up being that like a lot of our city officials like that were previously represented on the OCTA didn't really make the argument for the business interruption fund. So that should have been like one of the basic things that you start off with is like, hey, we're going to support this rail line if you have funds set aside to make sure that these businesses that are impacted survive and are able to make it through. And then that would basically be a matter of like, okay, well, how much is the rent? How much are they like the businesses on average making? And then basically like paying for those losses during the time of construction, right? That's really, it's a basic calculation. It does make the project more expensive, but it takes away one of the most negative impacts of it, which is now that you have a lot of businesses that close down and aren't able to recover. You have an entire downtown district that has been economically depressed. You know, we basically had COVID lockdowns, major kind of like a contraction of the economy. And then what was actually worse for a lot of businesses was the construction. So we had people saying, yeah, like COVID, immediate lockdowns were hard, but that the construction hit them even harder.
Oh, damn. Yeah. Yeah, it's confusing right now. You walk over there and things are closed. Traffic. Yeah, traffic is they make you go around. Top of that, they're making a lot of new, not just the construction of the train, right? They're making
Main Street, bigger Warner
homes, more apartments. Let me ask you about that. What's the purpose? I've thought about this. Mm-hmm. If you can maybe answer it. What's the purpose of building more apartments? Because I think they're building a lot of them everywhere. And like, it looks like they're pretty pricey apartments. Mm-hmm. So, where are these people gonna come from? You know what I mean? Because or what's the if you know the idea? Because what I'm trying to say is, like, how are they gonna get filled up? Pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's a good question and a reasonable one. So it depends on which ones we're talking about, right? So overall,
there's just a lot, So
yeah, but it might be like different. So like some of the ones on Santa Ana Boulevard are 100% affordable. So those are going to go to like people that make less than like $35,000 a year. Like, so families that make $35,000 a year or less. That's like very little, right? Like base is minimum wage.
But at least like Santana people can probably stay here, right?
Can stay and apply. Yeah. The problem with a lot of it though is that it's not a problem, but it is the way that a lot of the funds happen. You can't discriminate based on where someone lives, or you can't give preferential treatment based on where someone lives. So those are federal laws because we're using federal funds to do some of those projects. So those are a lot of low income housing tax credits. So those are federal grants that basically say like, or federal tax grants, tax credits that have certain rules and restrictions, and one of them is like, well, it has, it's federal money, so you can't really say only people from here can get it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, because it's but pretty much it's it's gonna bring people from everywhere.
Yeah, it is. The other thing that's been weird though is Santa Ana, at least in the last two censuses, has lost population, and part of that, I always explain it like this is. Yeah, it looks like there's a lot more people because there's cars everywhere, but it's more like a lot of the kids that were here grew up and have cars, right? So like when I was a kid, there was like
everybody has a car now.
Everyone has a car now, yeah. So when it used to be like 1 or 2 cars per household, now it's like the kids grew up, the kids are still living at homes, and therefore like the parking impacts are there, even if the population hasn't changed, the numbers of cars have. Yeah, The only way you can really prove that is we have to basically take a look at DMV data to see like, oh, is it more like population, but the names didn't change. So there's studies that we can still probably do in that area to figure out what's going on there. I don't have access to DMV data. I don't work for the DMV.
But yeah, that's true. That you make sense there because there is a lot of cars, and you made a good point there. More than probably that's what's making the city crowded, right?
The cars and the parking impact. So it's like more people can afford them. The cars are bigger now too, right? So like take a couple of 1980s cars, and you probably get like one or two like regular Toyota or Tacomas now. Like they just everything got bigger. So there's also less space for them. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, it was like that one's like I think a 3-trend problem. It's kids got older and now have cars. The cars themselves got bigger. And now there's more people making money so that they can actually afford the cars. So there's like all that stuff happening. But now going back to your original question, because I didn't want to like away from it, like as far as bringing in new people. I think that right now it's like it looks like there's a lot of construction, but it also comes from a time when comparing it to a time when in the 1980s and 90s, Santa Ana pretty much built nothing, right? So now like, it looks like we're building a lot, but really like if you compare it to like how much we were building in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, when everyone's like, oh, it was so great back then. It's like, well, we were building a lot of housing to meet the demand for the number of people that wanted to be here. Except, from then, we're basically converting orange groves and lima bean fields into single-family homes. So now, one of the only things you can do to kind of make room for more people is to build up. I don't necessarily always like a lot of the designs. I think that we probably would be better with, townhouses, right? So, like, let's say this is a home, you do, like, half of it, and then you just go up 3 stories instead, right? And so you get the same amount of space, you get a backyard, you still get a front yard, so that's like to me like the perfect way that we could evolve. Like, this one's a little bit older, I don't really like it too much, I'm gonna like demo it, we're gonna build 2 houses now, right? So you can do that. You can do quadplexes, so you have like 4 units, and you can maybe do like the basement, the middle, the second and third story or something. Like, so there are different options of how to move forward that don't necessarily involve just like 200 unit apartment complexes.
Because it's gonna take a lot of space too, and just having one, like you said, just instead of many different things, probably just one thing,
just one big one,
and it still takes probably like 3 blocks, and they're not like high rises, neither.
They're
like,
mid rises.
Make a high rise, like, oh shit, do it.
Exactly.
Might as well,
Exactly. The thing that's tough with high rises is because of California or like just regular building codes. Oh my god, I think it's a 4/1 model or 4/1 construction. Where basically it's like one level of like cement where you have to you can put all the cars at, and then the building code allows you to build 4 stories on top of that, and then like an extra story with like fire sprinklers and stuff.
Oh, okay. So you're a city planner, so you know.
Yeah,
that's cool. So you know about what's getting built. Okay, so you know what? Good thing I'm asking this question. So because you know what you're talking about.
I try to. Like,
I'm not saying you don't, but it gives you more credibility.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to. And there's still a lot to learn, but it's like part of that is just like that method of construction is so much more economical than other forms. So once you start going higher than those stories, you have to do steel frame construction, and then that is really expensive. So the only way we're probably going to get high rises is by another development called mass timber or cross laminated timber or glue laminated timber, and that basically just means that you get a bunch of these like little tiny sticks and you make them into just giant trunks. So you have these old buildings that were made out of wood, like in the Pacific Northwest, like these like 5-story like warehouses that are made out of giant redwoods, right? And they still last. They're really fireproof because they're fire resistant wood. But you can do like pretty large construction with wood if you engineer it. So that's probably the only way that we're going to get like a lot of buildings around here that are going to be more than like 7 stories tall.
Yeah. Because wood, you can't go up that high. It's a certain limit, pretty much.
Yeah, unless you do the engineered wood, so that cross laminated timber.
But that's probably like more expensive than metal, you were saying, right?
It's actually if you do the entire system, no, because it usually requires less workers. It requires less time to build, but the initial cost is still a little bit higher. So there's not as many like people like building the units. But what we're seeing now is like it went from being like 4 projects in the United States, and now I think there's like up to like 400 of them or more. Like, so it's a trend, and you're gonna start seeing it, and it also kind of looks cool because then what they do is like they build the building and they just leave all the posts because then it's just natural wood, Yeah. So it just looks cool.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah.
Like I know a little bit of framing, so well I did framing for like 8-9 years, so I got a picture of it. Speaking of houses, buildings, homes. We were talking about this earlier, how we got this house, but we still got this house at a good price. but it's still Santana is the center of Orange County. So and you know it's not a fancy Orange County. You know what I mean? It's the hood.
Yeah.
You know, you could call it the hood in Orange County. I mean, there's good houses, nice neighborhoods too, but it's still the hood compared to a large part of Orange County. And the houses are expensive, are pretty expensive here. Like I'm talking about when I got this house, it's $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, bro, I'm thinking of like, it's a joke, but like I live in a $500,000 house. You know?
Yeah.
What houses are $1 million this big now. You know, like 2 rooms. It's like that should be a mansion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they're small. What plans you see in that to help in the near future? If any ideas you have in mind for that?
Yeah, no, I think part of it still goes down to that supply demand, right? So when we're talking about like the number of units being constructed, it's not meeting anywhere close to the amount of demand that there is to live in Orange County. So we have a regional housing market. So it's like how many people in the world want to live in Southern California? It's a pretty big number. How many people in California want to live in Southern California on the coastal side? You know, if you had all your options and like, let's say you're paying the same amount, would you choose to live like in the desert? You know, some people would, you know, they like the desert environment, or would you want to go to one of the coastlines and then like be really close to like all this other stuff? And like, so there's just a lot of demand to be in coastal California. The weather's nice. Air quality is relatively good. It sucks like in a lot of days, but you know, relative to other places, there's a strong economy. So you have a lot of various like job opportunities. Entertainment's good, you know, connection to like global travel. Like there's a lot of stuff going for it. But the problem just is the cost. So one of the only ways you can really deal with that is you have to be able to construct and have enough units to meet that demand. On the home ownership side, which is really what I'd like to push more, right? Is that way you feel like, oh, this is yours. You don't have to worry about the rents being raised or anything. You just have like general maintenance and property taxes. But you know, like it's stable, right? It's a relatively stable living. Is you have to have different housing opportunities for purchase. So either townhouses, condos, things where you can like own and invest in, and it can be yours. But you need to do more units per square foot or per acre. And that sucks for a lot of people to hear, because then they're like, well, I want to live my suburban 1950s dream. It's like, well, you can, but you have to go somewhere where, you know, that just got developed and used to be a cornfield like 50 years ago. Well, yeah, you can do that, and like it'll be cheap, but it'll be out and away from everything. But you know, if you only want that here, like in the middle of like a high demand city in a demand area, you know, it's you know, how many, like, think about like the middle of Chicago, right? It's like how many people can afford like buying you know, like 10,000 square feet of like the middle of Chicago and building a mansion on it, right? Like there's a reason why those are mansions.
It's already
it's like it's already expensive. It's built out.
Yeah.
So right now, like the only way like we can like make it so that more people can continue to live here, you do have to find the right places where you can build it. So I think the ADUs have been helpful in the sense of getting additional housing units in places where people were already living. I think that, you know, finding ways to add units in the right places, like, so the new general plan is out, so as far as like building, you know, that's happening. I think that that's overall a good thing. You know, whenever I see a parking lot, I'm like, I always tell people, I don't think that necessarily there's an open space problem in the city. It's like that we've decided that all of our open space basically belongs to cars rather than to people or to parks.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah. Like more cars, like you said, there's more cars, more
cars, and we don't invest in our buses. You know, right now we have a strike, right?
Oh, for real?
I can't even I won't be able to use the bus tomorrow. They're on strike.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All over Santaana or
all over the county? All over Orange County.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Damn, that's interesting news to hear. I mean, I used to take the bus a lot when I was younger. Now I got my car.
Yeah, exactly.
I got 3 cars here.
Look there, 3 cars on person.
Well, one of them's not mine. No, but 4 cars. My suegros left their truck here. But yeah, I got my wife's, mine, and my spare truck. Mm-hmm. So that's 4 cars in my house, man. Damn, you know.
Yeah.
One more would be fine. A Mercedes.
There you go. There's a beginning here. Like, what happens in the studio though? Like,
yeah, put it in here.
Put it in here. Yeah, put that one in here.
Cancel the studio because I gotta take care of it for the payments. Don't touch it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, stop looking at it.
But yeah, a lot of cars, man, and it's hard to build. I guess, you know, hard to build more in Santana. Yeah, I never saw it like that. You can't really build. You could build in the same spot, but there's no room to build what you want, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And if you want all that extra space, you're basically paying the premium for it. So that's like, you know, to me now the true luxury luxury housing now in coastal California is a single family detached house. Like that's luxury housing now.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think about it because we all like grew up with the mentality of like, oh, that's just like it's a working class element. Like, yeah, but that's what everybody wants.
Everybody wants this now, huh?
Yeah.
That's a trip.
Yeah. So now you're fighting against everybody else, and whoever's got the most amount outbids it. So like for me, I've always been about like, look, Santana has been home to a lot of working class immigrants, and a lot of Latinos for a lot of years, and is like, to me, I think holds a special place because of that work. And right, because it was like a welcoming place where people were able to come in, it was a lot more affordable. But the only way we're going to be able to maintain any of that and the affordability is you do have to make sure that you can actually construct units and construct housing. And if you don't, what'll end up happening eventually is just whoever's got the most amount of money basically moves in over time, and that's it. And that could be fine. Like, that was actually part of the planning strategy, like as far as saying like, oh, what do you want to do with the city? Like former people are like, oh, if you just don't grow, all the poor people eventually move out because they can't afford to live here anymore.
Yeah, that's a trip. Speaking of that, for a long time I heard they call it, what was that word? Shoot, for some reason gentrification.
Oh, yeah,
for some
word.
reason
Yeah, it is.
It blocked out of my head right now. Mm-hmm. But do you consider what's happening to the city gentrification?
In some instances, yeah, because what like again, looking at analytically, right? Like me, like a urban planner, very like specific definition for it, right? It's like, so gentrification from the urban planning perspective is like the removal or like the replacement of like a poorer working class community with a higher, more affluent income community, right? And I think that is happening over time in the city, and it's very, very specifically in like really more in like certain areas and certain neighborhoods. And you tend to see this in places that have like large historic housing stocks that like really not, like basically think of like buildings that look really nice you can't build anymore, right? Like an old Victorian house, Spanish Mediterranean style, like things that people like and value and will like put money into to be like, oh yeah, I have this cool little like old Spanish bungalow, like,
you want another one? You want one?
I got this one still. Like, all right, well, cheers
you
for
the. You can set it right here, bro.
All right, cheers for the live.
I just don't set it because I got all this and then my fault, so I don't want it. But you can set it right here. It's no problem.
No, it's good. Yeah. No, I'm very clumsy too, so I'm just like putting it down here. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. So with gentrification, it's like, yeah, there's certain areas where it is happening, and you do see like the changing patterns of shopping in the downtown, right? So La Cuatro is no longer like only like a Latino serving area. Now it's really serving as much more of a downtown for the county as a whole. And the county as a whole is different than like what Santa Ana's population is as a whole. Mm-hmm. So that's changed. But you do also have other demographic changes that are part of it too, right? So right now, like I think it was back in like 2010, 2012. I have to look at my these charts that I was looking at where the immigrant population in the city was below the number of second and third generation kids. So there's a certain point where Santana was like in the 1970s, it was all immigrant. Mm-hmm. I'm saying like first generation, just came to the United States, working in like manufacturing, housing construction, still working in some of the farms and the industry that was around here. And then they had kids. And those kids are now kind of what makes up Santana, right? So like each one of those kids shops different. They go to Indio, not to the, not to like go get a quinceañera. Like they've already had their quinceañeras. They're older. They're going to bars, but it's not like the bars from back in the day. Now they're like newer bars that are more like say like I think the phrase was like chipster, more modern. Yeah. So it's like the changes like are there. And you see that change like in the city's history all the time. Like there's never like if you go back, there's never a single decade that really looks the same. If you really look at it, it just happened to be that before when a quinceañera shop would close, there would be another quinceañera shop or another Mexican immigrant serving business, first generation immigrant serving business that would go in its place. And now it's either second generation or completely different, right? It's like catering to like an Orange County like shopping crowd. So that's like the Them Skates, the let's see. I don't even know. Like oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. Like what's the other one? The Stussy Archive. Like things that are like much more like fashionable and that you've been seeing go into like these historic downtowns as part of like the overall retail, right? It's like they might have like 3 stores, but they always have it like in like a historic building in some like random old town, right? Because they don't want a boring like shopping experience in like some suburban mall somewhere, right? Yeah. So it's like all those things are happening, and it is changing the way that the city looks. Population wise, we haven't changed too much. Like it's still like heavily Latino, right? So this is like still hovering like 80-ish percentile, or 80-ish percent. But what you are seeing more is the changing of the businesses. That you see a lot of. But what I do like to also point out to people is like right now we have more Latino businesses probably in the city than just about any other time in our history.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but they're like on South Main, they're on 17th, they're everywhere.
Yeah, not just there.
Not just there, yeah.
Yeah, people assume gentrification is gonna happen to the whole city, but it's the whole city is still the same in reality, right?
There's a lot the same.
It's just the pocket right there is diverse now. More diverse than the whole population.
Yeah, but there is an active like thought that like if you bring in those types of businesses, your rents, you'll be able to get more money. If you're a property owner, like those types of businesses tend to do better, right? So you're going to be able to get more money out of like a detention, right? Like that store that restaurant, rather than from a quinceañera store, like for the same square footage. But it's also just that nowadays retail is really tough, right? Like everything's online. How many of us get Amazon?
That a good reason to close too.
Yeah. So it's
tough times.
Yeah, but if you have like anything that's a service or anything that's like specialty retail or like a food or a restaurant or a bar, those tend to do better because now you're like, oh, I got all this cheap stuff online on the retail side, but I want to go out and like have some drinks with my friends.
You're right. Yeah.
So like right now it's like Mission Bar is always popping, right? Yeah. Shout out to Mission Bar. They have a sign up.
Saludos.
Yeah, saludos. Oh wait, like hey, who's even on there right now?
It's just two people now.
All right,
people come in and out.
All right,
but it's
cool.
okay. Saludos.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's okay. I post it, and then that's when people start looking at it. When I post it,
okay.
I notice I get more views. People are looking at it. Yeah. But like I said, this is just like for propaganda,
getting out there.
But then I edit it, and it kind of looks like it does in the screen.
Oh wait, should I be looking at that screen?
Yeah.
The screen? Oh damn, I should be looking at this screen.
It's
damn.
Right. Yeah, that's gonna be the real one later.
Oh man, okay, I've been doing this wrong this whole time. All right, just cut to this.
You know what? Fred texted me. I saw it, but I don't know what it says. Shout out to Stoop Down.
Oh yeah.
But he asked him this question. What's up with all the taco stands that are popping out in Santana?
So that was
he was saying, were they even? Are those people even from Santana?
Yeah. So okay. So Stoop Down. Excellent question. Thank you for your stupid. Wait, no, your stoop. I was gonna say stoop down question. No. It's like Freddie and I are cool.
Yeah.
No,
maybe not after tonight. Nah,
no. Yeah, we're gonna come back with the bottle of tequila that you have or something, right?
Yeah. Whenever's.
All right. So Freddie, yeah, there was a change to California state law that essentially allows street vendors, like if a city doesn't have specific regulations against them, and there's kind of a framework that a city can adopt. So Santa Ana has not adopted any kind of proactive framework for street vendors. So that's something the city still needs to do. The thoughts and kind of conversation that's happening around this is potentially it might just be one large operation from Los Angeles. It's basically kind of like put these throughout Southern California. So that is a possibility. I don't know specifics about that, but that is something that I think the city and the county are kind of looking at. And really, it's going to be at least starting off more enforcement from the county side as far as health code regulations. So that's the thing I think folks are kind of more worried about. From the city side, one thing I would tell people about it is that if these businesses, these pop-up businesses are throwing away kind of their wastewater and like all the grease and everything, that actually will have a negative impact on the city because it clogs up the sewers. So one of the things you don't see with like taco stand or taco stores or restaurants or anything that does a lot of fat and like has a lot of grease is that there's actually a system that they have to intercept that grease. So they're called fogs. They're fat or grease interceptors that basically take fats, oils, and grease interceptors that basically collect all this stuff before it gets into the sewers, because otherwise once it gets into the sewers, this fat hardens, congeals, and basically creates like sewer backups. So it ends up like really like requiring a lot of maintenance over the long haul. So that's actually I think one of the bigger concerns that the city has is like, oh, this is actually going to mess up our sewers if people are just dumping like taco sauce.
It's a lot. Yeah,
it's a lot. So that's actually I think it's a valid concern. So we do have to look at things like that to regulate around what's going on there. And then the other concern I think that's been brought up by business owners is that they're not paying any property taxes or no proper business license. It could just be for me, every time I see anything that's cash only, I always assume it's a money laundering operation. I really do. Like I'm just like
you never know, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like I just look at something I'm like money laundering, or at the very least tax evasion, right? And I think that's a reasonable thing to say. Like there are probably taxes that are not being paid. Not paying the sales tax, not paying like just the regular state sales tax. So those are things that would be interesting to take a look at in more detail. But it is going to require kind of a lot of folks coming together. You know, this is not an attack on street vendors or anything, but it is like, okay, what are the basic rules that we can all agree with?
Yeah, because I think it's cool. I think it brings a different light to the city. You know, brings a little bit more alegría to the city. People from Costa Mesa or
everyone's gonna come down,
drive around. They're gonna be like, oh shoot, what's going on right here? You know, or people that are familiar with these spots. Oh, Santana's the same way. You know, I don't have nothing against it, but yes, I mean those are concerns to look at, because on top of it, it's people coming from LA, probably not even Santana people. Not that I have an issue with the people. We're all raza, like they say. Everybody got to get their money, but it's true. Like there's health risks. They're pocketing cash when maybe it could be a santanero, you know, like al revés, you know. So
because one of the things that we see, and this is one of the things I want to take a look at. I haven't looked at it recently, but I wasn't sure if there was one company that basically took all of the like paletero and like initial paletero licenses and basically monopolized them, right?
Damn.
And then other people work for them rather than it being like, oh, okay, you know, like, is this like, do we open it up so that, you know, other businesses can also get into it, or like, you know, someone that's like small and doesn't have you know, maybe all those connections, you know, that's something I think also worth looking at. It's like, how are we supporting them? Not just like saying, oh yeah, we allow it, but like, is it all going to like one business, and we're actually allowing people to be like, you know, owners of their own cart? Because a lot of these folks end up like leasing these from like their boss.
Oh shoot.
You know, and that's the thing we don't see sometimes. So like, that's where I'm just like, okay, like, I just want to like, whatever we do, we have to take a look at the whole system
and help at the same time the people, right?
Yeah.
Where there's laws, you know, but at the same time help the people. I wrote down a couple questions. And like I said, I was gonna go up and down. I don't want to be all politics with you. Also, I want them to know, you know, people who are gonna see this, to know how you are too. You know. Okay. So I'm gonna ask a couple questions, in regards to yourself, so people get to know also you. You know, a little bit. You know, like I said, I try to go for an hour. We're cool. We're at an hour.
All right.
If you're cool, let's keep going a little bit.
Yeah, cool. And they'll give you stuff to cut out.
And like I said, that way people could also know you. How was your childhood in Santana, bro?
Ah, man.
Let me ask you this. Let me start. We're here. What's your ethnicity, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a Mexican.
Mexican American. Both your parents are from Mexico, or?
So my mom's like fourth generation barrio.
Oh, okay,
she's like old school barrio.
Damn.
So yeah, her family like grew up in Placentia Atwood, and then like from there it was like Arizona, like borderland. So they're like little town out of there.
Oh, okay.
But then my dad's like, you know, first generation from Leon, or outside of Leon.
Oh, okay.
So it was weird because like basically my mom predominantly only speaks English, and my dad only speaks Spanish. So then like they both talk to each other in the respective language and they understand each other. So then when I talk to my mom, I'm always talking in English. When I talk to my dad, I'm always talking in Spanish. Okay. So I have to direct who I'm talking. I can't talk to both of them at the same time. I have to choose which one I'm talking to. Like I'll say something. But
does your dad understand?
They both.
Like if you talk to them and to your mom in English, he understands.
Yeah, they do.
You just make it easier.
Yeah. So that was like one of the weird things, right? So then like even like my own name, you know, my dad's like Manuel, and then my mom's like Manuel, you know, like Manuel, get over here, and then my dad's like Manuel. So like, and my dad's also named Manuel, right? Okay. So that's why I just go by Manny. You know, I had to kind of create my own little abbreviation so I wouldn't choose between my mom or my dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I grew up here. Like I would say I was lucky in the sense that I had like a 2-person loving, you know, household, or a 2-parent household, loving family. But you know, there's like I think it was like 16 of us at the house at like a maximum point. Yeah, you know, just there on island.
All brothers and sisters, or family?
Family. It was like multiple. All family, but you know, like different branches of the family, right? So we had like cousins and other cousins in another room, then the garage, and like, you know, the living room, right? It's on couches. It was, you know, we basically did that to survive, right? It was like everyone together. So I grew up around a large family in a little house, right? It was like 3 bedrooms. At that point,
but it's also cool because you have you're with your family. You grow up with family, you know, good experiences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So they were always there, and that was the other thing, right? Because we were able to do that. That's why, like, you know, my parents were able to afford to send me to Catholic school, so they gave me a good education. So I had like a solid upbringing there. It turned out that I was like particularly bookish, right? So I was a very shy, like quiet kid, you know. So I just like to read all the time. So they take me to the library, you know. So like because we were able to
So you were a schoolie.
I was a schoolie. Yeah, absolutely. I was a schoolie.
My little daughter, I told her, you're a schoolie, but they don't know what that is no more.
No, they don't. Yeah, no, I was totally schoolie. I was a total schoolie. So I was like,
which I wish I was a schoolie, man. You know.
Yeah.
Now looking back, I'm like, I wish I was a schoolie.
Yeah.
You know. Now I gotta work hard.
Yeah,
work hard in the fields.
Yeah, no, and I totally embraced it. So for me, it was cool because I just I liked it. I was really good at it. So I always got tracked to being I was always pretty much top GPA in my class every time.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
But more than anything, I got when I was younger though, I thought that was everything. So I got really stressed out about it, and it was just overwhelming, right? So I had this whole thing where I was caught cheating on a pretend final at the end of 8th grade, and they took away my valedictorianship, and after that I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do any of this anymore. I'm just gonna not do anything anymore. Yeah. But it was weird because it was more than anything, it just taught me that grades are important, but it shouldn't be everything about you. You have to have a full lived experience.
Yeah.
So for high school, I was pretty much a slacker, but I was I calculated how many hours I needed to be in class, and I was okay, I can get a C. If you got a C, the people left you alone. If you got a D, people were worried, right? If you fail, people start worrying. You get a C, you're that's fine. It's just move them on.
It's still passable.
Yeah.
I used to live like that. Yeah. Oh, the live video ended.
Oh, damn.
It ended by itself. Oh, well.
I guess you can only do it so long.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So the, yeah, man. So so with that, it just basically, you C's got degrees, right? No, just okay, cool. I can get C's. I'm going to just cruise by, go to SAC for a little bit, transfer out. At that point, I thought I was going to do engineering. I'm I can all I need is a C and an engineering degree and I'm good.
Get it the easy way.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get A's, but at the same time, you're still getting your degree, right?
Yeah, because that's all they're checking. A lot of them are checking the basically the workload that you do, right? And you're going to do good work. All right, cool. You're good.
You're right.
Yeah, but then for me, that was childhood, but
so you went to Modern Day.
To middle college.
Okay.
Yeah.
What junior high?
Junior high was also Immaculate Heart of Mary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so elementary through junior high, Immaculate Heart of Mary,
and then
which is on Civic Center, the church, right?
No. So now it's McFadden and Center. So it's close to Jerome Park, right across.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Same one. I probably just confused the streets.
Oh, okay.
Because I used to go there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you went to high school and Modern Day and junior college.
Middle college. Yeah, so I went to Modern Day for freshman, sophomore year, and then middle college, junior, senior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I graduated from there, and then went to SAC and transferred out to Berkeley. So that was
nice. Where's that at? Berkeley?
UC Berkeley. Yeah.
UC Berkeley in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's across the bay from San Francisco, immediately north of Oakland. So
okay.
Did my undergraduate degree in history. At that point, I thought I was gonna be a history professor. But then
so that's what that was your plan, to be a history professor.
Yeah, by that point, I was I'm gonna teach history. I'm gonna
Okay, so that's why I wrote this question, history about a say. That's why you went deep
on Santa Ana.
Looks like you know deep about Santa Ana. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why. So you could understand history pretty much.
Yeah. So I was studying it, and then but I needed a more practical job. It was 08 recession, right? So everything just goes downhill.
Yeah.
Pretty much one of the worst job markets that anyone's ever jumped into, or any generations jumped into. It's just everything was closed, right? And everyone was just flocking to academia. So it was really hard to get into any programs, and it was a mess. But what ended up happening there was I got a job. I was already working for the Santa Ana Public Library. And there was an opening that happened in the Santa Ana History Room because I'd always volunteered there, kept working there. I was doing a lot of the programs with the teen club that they had over there, and basically landed that sweet job of being the Santa Ana archivist, right? So basically holding that the Santa Ana History Room that has all these old files, photos, everything about Santa Ana, in this little collection at the library. I was the dude that was in charge of that. So anytime someone had a question, and it would be hardest question no one can find about Santa Ana, okay, go to that room and find it. And so that was my job.
Let me ask you this question. So Santa Ana was officially part of Mexico, or no?
Well, not as a city. So Santa Ana was not incorporated until 1869 as a city. The Rancho Santiago de Santana was granted under the Mexican government. So that was a Mexican land grant. It wasn't part of the original Spanish. I don't think it was part of the original. Oh wait. Oh man, I'm getting these dates now. No, okay. It was a Spanish land grant. Then then there were Mexican land grants. Then became part of the United States, part of LA County. Then the city was formed as under LA County in 1869, or founded in 1869 by William Spurgeon, It was not incorporated, I think, until 1886 under the state of California in the city or in the county of Los Angeles. It then led the charge to be the county seat in 1889 as like the capital of Orange County.
Oh, nice. You got it down, man. You got it down.
I was like, wait a minute.
You got it down. You got those dates down.
No, but I always have to look at my notes because then like I confuse things too. But I would answer questions, look stuff up for people, and that's how I got really like more of the deep dive. So I still tell people that any of the political work that I do is like important, but the most important thing I'm going to be able to do is like write a full history of the city. So I've still been working on that like for the last 8 years now, and it's basically
like a book.
Yeah, full book, but it's like. I don't, because it's one of those things where it's like you read enough history, you just stop trusting history books. Okay. Because then you're like, okay, I want to do the research.
Pretty much, you're saying like the ones who won the war teach you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So now it's like because we haven't had a really like critical examination of the history of the city, or at least looking at it from a slightly different perspective to tell the whole story. So like for me, like there's still a lot to be written. I'm still learning a lot. That's where I'm just like I know a lot, but I know that there's way more that I don't know about it.
Yes. Yeah, it's. Yeah, you can't learn everything, It's like a doctor. They can't really learn everything. Mm-hmm. That's why it's called the practice.
Yeah.
But you can learn enough, to survive.
Yeah.
So what got you into politics?
Oh, God. I was working for the city, and I worked for it for 14 years. So 10 of those years was at the Santa Ana Library.
I said I wasn't going to talk about politics.
No, just right in the back.
But it's like so they can know why,
Yeah, I didn't even tell you about my childhood.
Well, oh yeah, how was your childhood in Santana? But yeah,
I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. No. So like, yeah, I guess. Well, I did want to like talk about like what one or two other things that like in the childhood, right? So
go ahead.
Yeah. So now growing up, it was Highland rate, right? So we're basically Highland Street. Myrtle over here, Townsend over here, and it was a very violent upbringing, right? So
that was the hood, huh?
Yeah, it was shootings every night. I think my house was raided on multiple occasions. But then it's weird, right? So we've had like police shotguns in my face, like when they're raiding my house, and then like basically tearing up my family's home, right? Like that experience growing up.
So you had brothers, and why would they do that? You had brothers affiliated?
I had a cousin who was affiliated, but it was like he was basically a local dealer, right? But he wasn't like affiliated with like the gang directly, right? He was more like I would say like an associate. He just lived in the same street, but he wasn't like he has no like tattoos from the gang. So that was basically happening throughout a lot of my like early childhood, and like just kind of like that experience, was definitely jarring. But at the same time, like SAPD came out and like saved my cousin's life when she was like being held hostage at gunpoint.
Sure.
So that like those are the kinds of experiences, right? So as far as like number of bodies I've seen like directly in front of my house, it's like multiple multiple instances.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So like that trauma like really carried through, right? So a lot of it was like early like succeed and get out, right? Yeah. So for a lot of me trying to process like why I do any of this stuff is like I don't want that cycle to continue, and I want to do everything I can to basically break those cycles.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. That's why I brought the gangs earlier, because so what it's like growing up.
Yeah.
Believe it, Santana's a gang society. It's famous for gangs. In reality, it's part of the culture of Santana and history of Santana too, and. It's part of the city.
Yeah, and that's why like people don't see it now, but like I'm a total metalhead, right? So I was like I'm into like death metal, black metal, like just like some heavy stuff. But it was also because like my world was like growing up was fairly violent, right?
Yeah.
But
I saw someone posted a picture where you with.
Oh yeah, that's my spikes. Yeah. So the thing to that was like it's kind of liberating, right? So when you had those spikes and long hair and you're a rockero, you could just go travel from like neighborhood to neighborhood and like no one like bothered you, right? You're never confused for any of the homies because you're a rockero, just like long haired metalhead. Right?
No one bothers you like that, huh?
Yeah, exactly. They don't hit you up. They're like, "Where are you from?" Like, no, this guy is like
some rockero.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was like almost like a free travel pass to be able to go between the different neighborhoods.
So you saw a lot of neighborhoods, how they work. Well, not how they work, but
yeah,
you got the opportunity,
Yeah, exactly. And then the other part was like at that point, the first time I think I started volunteering with the city was like at 16, like over at the Jerome Center. So I just volunteered the programs, got a couple hours in, then eventually volunteered at the Santa Ana Public Library, and that took me in a whole different direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's Fred.
Fred.
Yeah.
Fred. He just wants to know.
Saludos, Fred. Yeah, but I'll answer it later. Yeah, that's but overall, you could say you had a good childhood.
Yeah, I'd say like I got here. Yeah.
Beautiful city, right? Beautiful city.
Beautiful
to
city.
grow up in, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful city to grow up in.
It is.
I say so.
Yeah.
Like I said, you could see a little bit of everything here. You know, you
Mhm.
could see the good, the bad, the rich, the poor,
Mm-hmm.
the middle of everything. You could see the good, like evil, like
Yeah.
you could see parties, or you could see it's a
Yeah,
it's a beautiful city. There's
Yeah.
cars, people fix their cars,
Mhm.
the cultura.
Yeah.
There's beautiful stuff to grow. I mean,
Yeah, I would love to grow up in this area now, like because right now it's like you can do probably more. Like people are like it's just like when things happen, people are more aware of those things happening. But I do think it's like overall our violent crime trend has really gone down.
Good,
There's
good.
still issues, but you grow up as a young dude like now. I would trade it in and be like, yeah, 10 years later, cool.
and I want to ask because I
Yeah,
did
dude.
get a little bit I brought some beers and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, well, I assume because you're a politician you're not gonna want to drink a beer, you know. I'm not saying not politician in
No,
that way.
no,
I'm not
it's
trying
not.
to say
No, it's
politician as in a bad way, you know. But
No,
I'm just saying,
it's true. Like you have to be
yeah,
like on.
you know, I respect your position. You're a politician, or is that what you call yourself, a politician? Can you call yourself that?
And when I win, yeah, but yeah, like even just
Oh, okay,
trying,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
I would say anyone that's, I would say anyone that's like running for office is like, yeah, an aspiring politician. For me, I do consider myself, my God, there's like it's almost too wordy of a word though, but like as a statesman, you know, like where it's like I really do care about the state, but I mean that in the sense of like. I care about what we're supposed to try to represent, right? It's like, how do you get our government to function for people? And I'm going to be doing this either as someone that's in working in government or working as like part of an elected position in government, but I'll still be working like I think in government somehow because I really do think that it's important that we have a government that works. So I've devoted my life to really government service, and I do see it as government service. And I know a lot of people like, ha, ha, funny, right? Yeah. But I think it's like we have to start thinking about like people in these positions is really saying like, no, they're service positions, and you have to have individuals with the mindset of like, how do you make the system function better? And that once we kind of give up on that idea, I think we all are doomed because there is a role for government in different things, and we take it for granted now, right? It's like they're the ones that measure whether or not your water is clean. They've made basic investments in the electricity grid. The road, the sewer infrastructure, all of that stuff, your social security payments, basic investments in universities, all those things are run like by government agencies. So I do still see it as a way that we come together to deal with problems that we can't handle on our own. And it's not that you have to have government role in everything, but that you should look to see where government is being involved and how to make it better all the time. And that differs, because something that works in one situation might not work in another situation, depending on the context. But as what I would like to say as a statesman or like someone who's like really more about like how to get government to work, that's what I worry about. Not so much about like my next election. This is really more of a platform to talk about specific issues like, hey, we need rent control because that's what's going to keep people housed. We need to produce more housing because then otherwise there's not going to be anywhere for anyone to live. We have to treat public safety not just in this way of locking people up and throwing them away forever, but how do you rehabilitate and bring people back into our community? What do you do to support small businesses? Like there's so much we can do and need to do that running for office is just a way to get to talk about these issues.
Yeah, and I'm glad, because growing up, or you expect to see people running for city official. You assume they're all old men in their 60s and stuff like that.
I'm an
right
old man
now,
too. I'm an old man in here.
but you're young to still go a good distance. I think it's a certain age group right now. I see that are working for Santaana in that aspect are young. I mean, even the mayor seemed cool. I met the mayor.
Yeah.
He seemed like young. Like the young attitude. Like I shook his hand once. I've never shaken a mayor's hand, but I shook it, and he went like that to me.
Oh, yeah, he did. He was like, yeah.
And I was like, and I was like, oh shoot,
Yeah, I was doing the same thing where I give him a formal handshake, and he's like trying to do this. I'm like, huh? I don't even know, because I used to work. Yeah, because I used to work for him though. In the sense that like directly as a city employee. So I was always like, oh, mayor. Or like it was at that point it was council member. Oh, council member.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I'm happy that you guys are stepping up to the plate. I'm happy that you're taking initiative because we need people. I always say we need. My mom used to say this a lot to me. ¿Para qué quieres hacer cholo? I mean, we're from Santana, so we affiliated in one form, way or another. We had friends or whatever. Not that I was a gangbanger or anything like that. I don't consider myself that. But you grew up with going to school, neighbors. But she always said, ¿para qué quieres hacer cholo? de esos ya tenemos mucho, you know. We gotta be
Yeah.
what you're doing, you know. That's what I respect, especially from the raza mexicana, you know. I'm proud to be Mexicano, and I like seeing my gente mexicana or Chicanos move up in life, you know, because and at the end, obviously everybody else, my black brothers, my Puerto Ricans, and all my Latino brothers to be up there too, you know. But obviously, I'm Mexican, and I want to see my Mexican people strive also, you know.
Yeah, and the way I see it is also just like you know, like I'm taking care of or trying to take care of one little part of the globe, because I don't know about everywhere else, right? Like I know about 27.3 square miles of the planet. So for me, I've definitely transferred that love into like, I love Santana and I love the people here, and I'm like trying to do whatever I can to help out this little community. Cool. And I think it's like having that heart for community more than anything that's about, right? It's
and you understand the heart for the community because you grew up here, you know. So
right in the middle, man. Like every direction I went, it was like Santa Ana for miles that way, and that way, you know.
Yeah. So I respect that. Like I said, I respect that, and I'm happy for you, and I'm proud of you and your colleagues. You know, hopefully you guys get where you need to get at. Let me ask you this: what's your future goal for Santana, man? Like, what's your future? Even like if you keep moving, or say in a couple of years you stop, but where do you want to see it? Where do you want to see it at?
The city, okay, the city as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's like pretty simple, right? I want to have like the coolest, highest quality, most affordable quality of life, like in Southern California, right? I want a place where people can be creative, where people aren't worried about like their rent, that they're able to hang out with their family, their friends, live a good life, have like opportunities of education for their kids, their family, and you know, if they want to do something, to be able to be part of a community that's going to be there to support them. So I think at the end of the day, it's really about that, right? It's like, how do you like create a place where people live good lives and are encouraged to help other people who live good lives. So that's what I want to aim towards. And that's tough, you know, to like get that like into something concrete, but it's what security about your house, right? Not worried about where you're going to live, not worried about where your food's going to come from, not worried about like, hey, what am I going to make it in life? Because at the end of the day, it's like, like not everyone's going to be a rock star, but you could be, you know, the best parent in the world. You could be like the best baseball coach, you know, and little league. Like there's everything. Like I think everyone has a passion inside them, and we just have to learn how to unlock that with each other. So I want to create that. You know, that's what I want Santa Ana to be known for. It's like a community that you get into. It's like a big city, but it's like the biggest little city like in the country or something. You know, like where you like, go there, be creative, be yourself, and you're gonna be welcomed.
And that's a good vision to have, because we do need that. You know, it's a good way to hope we could end up being one day. And with work, we probably could, you know, probably could. And with people like you, we probably will, you know. It might take time, but we probably will. Yeah. As long as your heart, I think, and mind is going that way, it'll work. Yeah,
but it's all of us. It's not any one person. That's the other thing. It can't rely on one person ever. It's got to be like all of us.
Yes. But you're a voice, you know. Like you said, you're starting to be a voice for a lot of us. So that's a start, you know. That's a start. So you're a leader, you know. You're a leader.
Yeah, by default, man.
Yeah. But in the community, you're striving for that, and like I said, hopefully you achieve, as long as your goals are good and you don't become a dictator or tyrant.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know? I'll remember this. Like you treated me well.
I remember that guy. What's your plan as your future career, like in politics? I'm
sorry, a little spider here.
Oh shit.
No, it's all good. It's a little big one.
Okay.
Like I think I've always told everybody this. It's like I really I have like two goals, right? I was like I want to be on Santa Ana City Council, and then really for me it was just a Board of Supervisors Central District, right? Because I think that the county does the most amount of work related to issues that directly impact us. So when we're talking about homelessness, we're talking about basic transportation infrastructure, right? So for me, I want to believe in mass transit and the way to be able to get people around in a way that doesn't involve just single passenger cars. Yeah, cool. Keep your car. Cool. Keep your car with a regular engine. Cool. But I'm just more like, how do you create a system where like it's actually better for someone to take a train, a bus, and like to be able to get to where they want to get to, or to walk or to bike? Like that's what I want to try to create, but that's what the county does.
But you want to stay local, pretty much.
Yeah,
you don't want to stay. You don't want to go upstate or nothing like that.
No, like because I know a lot about city and municipal issues, and I know a little bit more about county. Some of the federal stuff is bigger, yeah. but I don't necessarily see myself as the best representative for a federal or state office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you want to stick to the heart.
Yeah,
Much, right?
Yeah. So like, the way I'm seeing it, like if I win, I basically get about like 8 years of this, and then maybe try for supervisor for 8 years.
So your term will be 8 years?
The terms are 4 years apiece, but then it would happen to coincide with like, there would be a supervisor's race, and then I'd have to choose between running and like going to supervisor. It's some way or another, right? So I would basically stay here at most, 12. I would say my longest anticipation would be 20 years, because then it would be like 12 years at city council, and then like 8 years at the board of supervisors, and that's like a long political career for me.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm just like, I really do think that for me, part of me really just wants to sit down and be an academic and just like go back for the PhD and just like write a history book of Santa Ana, and then again that would be a lot of work. I'm really running though because I didn't see anyone else that really represented the values that I had as far as what I wanted to see for the future of the city. But there are a lot of young kids out there that I think are going to be really great. That I'm hoping that I can just step aside for like relatively early when I can still like go sail the world, and like
enjoy
life.
your retirement.
Because that's the thing, right? Life shouldn't be about like trying to get all this stuff and like get as much before you die. It's about like what those experiences are with the people that you care about and the people that you love.
True. Yeah, that's good thinking and a good way to roll.
Mm-hmm. I'm just lucky because I'm just lucky that I love Santa Ana, so I can roll with Santa Ana for a while.
Cruising the car, man. Cruising. When you retire, cruising, are you gonna be one of those guys in a bomba, maybe?
I don't know about the bomba. See, actually, what would I go? Nah, not the bomba, but I would definitely. I've always wanted to do like some electric like muscle car.
Oh, okay. An electric muscle car.
Yeah, because they go faster.
Eventually, those motors are gonna be in the junkyards or for a good price. Like everything else, and it'll be a possibility.
Yeah.
I had a good question, but I think I let it go. I didn't write it here. But let me think real quick. Let me see if it comes up. Probably not. So yeah, you okay. Why should people vote for you?
Oh man. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. So like, number one, okay, if you're a renter, supporting rent control. That's been like one of the big distinguishing issues. But more than anything, you have to kind of see like where my money's coming from, who's supporting me, and kind of the reasons that I'm here. And at the end of the day, prioritizing Santa Ana residents. I'm not getting a lot of outside money. It's really just kind of Santa Ana groups, some labor unions, kind of really supporting my effort here. The other side is getting about $100,000 from the police association, which nothing against officers, but when you have one union that's basically spending more than all the other political players combined, that's worrying to me, right? So like pretty much against like trying to remove that special interest influence at City Hall so that we can focus on the residents, kind of what is best for the residents, and not allowing any one particular entity veto over what can happen at City Hall. So that's like a big reason I think that marks me as different. Number two, I'm actually like really, I hope maybe from this conversation, I actually know a lot about these various topics, right? So I'm not someone that's kind of coming in here being all like, I want to be in charge. I know nothing about government. So it's more of like, no, I've worked in government and there's a lot of things we can do better, but you have to know the very specifics of like, this is your budget. This is like the laws that you can change. These are the other agencies you have to work with. This is how we probably would want to move forward in a particular strategy. So that's really kind of the nitty gritty of actually governing is very different than trying to get elected. You can talk, you can meet, you can kind of, put some posters out and some flyers out. But unless you're actually willing to do the work, and that's where this job is a job. It has very specific work requirements. And I think I'm uniquely qualified, not just on the education, but then also the experience of working for the city, that I would be good at this job. So you're basically interviewing two candidates, one that has no government experience, and then the other one that's like, 14 years of doing it.
So yeah, you're how do they say it? There's a word for it. You're cut out for the job.
Yeah, I'm qualified.
Qualified, yeah. You're qualified. The other guy needs He needs to be an apprentice, right?
It still needs to learn a little bit. Yeah. So that's the thing where it's like, basic questions and that go unasked, right? So like one of the things we can basically do is like, oh, our police budget, and we want to be more effective about it. Well, it's like, okay, well, let's take a look at the amount of overtime that we're doing for specific actions. And then are those really what our priorities are? And if those questions aren't being asked in public, then it's not likely that they're being asked in private either, right? So this is something where the city can get a much more effective end result from the police if we go through and look to say, where are you spending your time versus I love whatever they're doing such a great job and I have a photo op with them and they have endorsed me, like that's different than like, hey, we have 40 people doing traffic, but we have all these homicides that are going on. I want to divert your people from traffic enforcement to figure out what's going on with the homicides in our community because we're losing young men at a ridiculously fast rate. Like that's something where it's like members of my community are dying and we're not doing enough to make that an emphasis. So that's where, I think different priorities and a different kind of mindset as to what is possible is there. And also I think, at the end of it, I'm not really trying to do this to, again, go to the next stepping stone. It is very much like, yep, Santa Ana. I'll be in Santa Ana in one way or another.
Good. Yeah. I mean, and there's nothing wrong if you do, but you're stating it right. Like I said, like you pretty much were talking about, you want to stick to the heart.
Yeah.
And
dude, like getting a county supervisor, that's huge, man. That is like, it's like a big operation. They're like in LA, they call them like the 5 little kings.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, because they basically have their own fiefdom, man. It's like their county operations are huge, and it's like a really unknown level of government. So everybody always wants to be like, oh, I'm over in Washington or I'm over in Sacramento. It's like, no, like you can do a lot of work at the county level. But you do have to be ready to basically implement on like day one. You have to have a system in place.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like pretty much like what's that word? Like when President Biden goes in or Trump or whatever president, they have a what do I call it?
The transition team or just
like a plan. What's the title? Their agenda.
Yeah, you can say
they have like a I forgot the word, but pretty much like you have to already be ready with the system to, like you said, to
implement right there.
Like pretty much start working with your agenda. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Manny, I want to thank you for coming by. Mm-hmm. I the more we speak, the more questions I have.
Yeah.
We're gonna go on forever, but I'm really happy that you came by. Like I said, it got me excited when you responded. I was like, yes. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your goals, your visions with us. Why we should vote for you. I voted for you,
Oh, there you go. It's because I have your endorsement. That's why
I'm new to the voting stuff too, like I grew up thinking, why should we vote? Mm-hmm. Till I got older and, started like really, because growing up with the streets, with the people in the streets, that's the mentality,
Yeah.
And once I started like kind of separating myself, I've always gone to school. I've always worked. I graduated. I went to college. I've always been work mind, but still, like, I was uneducated, and recently I'm like, you know what? I should vote. I still need more education in that, but I feel like, that's the only way to really fight,
Yeah.
I grew up with friends saying revolucion, I hung out with, I used to hang out in the culture center of Mexico when I was a kid, and people were talking about zapatistas. But I grew up to I started learning on like Pancho Villa. But I'm like, the only revolution, we can't really start a revolution. The only way to really fight is voting,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm new to this. I'm new to this understanding. I need education. But I'm glad, and in reality, I'm starting here.
Yeah.
I voted for governor, for president, things that I understand, the judges are. But I'm trying to focus understanding like on the city too, because I'm like, you know what, I live here. I don't live in all of California, so not everything's gonna mess with me. Certain things are, but I live here, so things gotta line up here too, right?
And it's even like the people that are making those laws at the state do also take into consideration your representatives locally, right? So as an elected official here, you do have access to other electeds, right? So then you're saying like, hey, this thing that you're working on, this is like something I'd like to revise because the people that I care about, this is how it's going to impact them, right? So it is kind of also lifting up that voice. And I would also say, though, like, you weren't wrong on being cynical. I was pretty cynical for a while, too, because, part of it, if we go back to the question is like, why run? It's like, well, I didn't see anyone that was representing what I wanted to see, right? Like, so when I was running, it was very much like, no one else was talking about rent control, and now it's passed. So I'm very happy that it was like one of those candidates. I ran on it because I thought it was super important, and we managed to get it passed. But if you do have the same kinds of individuals running all the time, then maybe the vote doesn't matter. But right now in Santa Ana, you do have different ways of looking at the city, ways of looking at each other, ways of valuing. I would say our common, you said it, our common hood experience, right? Yeah. Like, I'm a hood kid, now, but I learned how to dress up for everybody else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't go, because you can't go to, if you're selling a house, you can't go in with long socks, Cortez, bald, you have to be presentable in a different way, and you have to learn all those stuff, But so I respect what you're doing. Like I said, I'm thankful for you coming by. Any shout outs you want to give out?
Oh, well, I guess other shout outs to all the other candidates that we're running with, right? So Cooperative Campaigns has brought together a good group of folks. The Working Families Party is also supporting us. They help out more progressive Democrats. So it did get the support from the OC Democratic Party, which actually was pretty huge because they're going up against incumbents. So that's actually pretty interesting that they're doing the right thing locally to get real progressive Democrats elected. I would say the campaign managers and my field guys. So Andrew Hauserman, thank you so much. Jesse Lopez for all the work that she's doing on the campaign. And then the other ones that are also braving this fire with me. We're basically facing down $1 million in outside money. So that's Amalia Mejia, again running for Ward 4. Ben Vasquez in Ward 2. Myself, Ward 6. Katie Brazier down at the school board. And oh my gosh, Sal Tinajero for mayor, and Vicente Sarmiento for supervisor. So those are my recommendations. I know I got those out. But also like more of a shout out to anyone that's watching and cares about Santa Ana and its future. And if there's anyone that's out there that feels like the political world has never been accepting of them, and maybe they want to get more involved, hell, maybe they want to run for another position. There's always different seats that are open, and I'm always open to talking to new people to get them involved. Because I think we had Hector Bustos who won just by applying. Oh, yeah? He's a cool guy. He just won, but he was brave, right? He's 23 years old, the youngest elected official we're ever going to have in Santa Ana's history. Oh wow. Yeah. LGBT, cool guy, and he just he went for it. He was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, but he stepped up. Nice. And he got it.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's not even. I mean, it's work, but
it is.
If you're lucky, you're lucky, right?
Oh man, if you're like, yeah, that's why everyone's like, oh man, it must be like jealous of Hector. I'm like, yes, I am. But he's a cool guy, so the school board's in good hands. But but to step up, right, and just to be like, that could be you. And more than anything, I just want to say that it can. Cool, yeah. It's not just like restricted to certain people. You can have any kind of background, but if you have your heart and you're gonna be doing the work, like you can do it.
Yeah, true. And I always ask this: the shout out and anything. You kind of answered that. Oh. You already said. I said anything you want to message you want to send out?
Yeah, that was it. That was definitely the message. It's like, everyone should participate. Go out and vote. Even if you don't vote for me, but tier, but vote because it does matter.
Yeah, at the end, it doesn't matter if you go red, blue, green.
Yeah. Yellow.
You have to. I do push it now. It's okay. We should because everybody else is. Yeah. More power to the Asian community, but they're getting strong. The Asian community, the black community's been strong. And the white community's been strong. Yeah. It's our turn. We're a majority. We I like saying this, but we're probably the original people here, and it's like we should also be as strong. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we I encourage red, blue, doesn't matter, but as long as our voice.
Yeah, because for any of the libertarians out there, so yellow's a libertarian color. So we have a libertarian for mayor this time. That hardly ever happens.
Oh wow. Yeah. so Sarmiento's yellow?
Oh no, Sarmiento is he's blue. He's like a solid blue Democrat. It's Jesse Nestor. Oh okay. And Sarmiento's running for supervisor. He's running against Sal, and we could have done a whole thing just on the status of the race, but that's another podcast.
Yeah, like I said, I have a lot of questions coming in like a train. Yeah. But thank you once again, bro. I appreciate it. I had a good time. I think you broke the record. You have the longest podcast.
Oh yeah.
I tried to aim for an hour. Why? Because I do explain this to everybody for the audience to listen. Yeah. I think if we go 2-3 hours, they're gonna pause. Mm-hmm. But I think it was a real good combo. I liked it. I appreciate it. and hopefully we could do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the near future, I do plan on bringing everybody that's come by, and maybe chop it up more freely, or whatever the topic is about, but with more con más confianza.
Confianza. All right.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
Anywhere they can follow you?
So thank you for that. Pretty much
put it up.
Put it up. Yeah, everything is pretty much like Vote Manny. So Instagram, it's all Vote Manny. Twitter, Vote Manny. Facebook, Vote Manny. It's like we've been fairly consistent. Just look up Vote Manny, and you should be able to find me. I'm on everything, I think, except we haven't updated our YouTube channel. It's just kind of sitting there, but I'm on there too.
Oh, YouTube too?
Yeah.
Vote Manny?
Vote Manny, yeah.
Okay.
It's everything.
Vote Manny.
Yeah, just Vote Manny.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess also though, if you see this after the election, it reverts back to the old account name, which is like full_metal_archivist.
Oh, so you're gonna change it? After?
Yeah, that's like usually what I end up doing. Like during campaign season, I just switch it back, but then it'll just be the official account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's the same account.
The same account, yeah.
All right. So stay tuned for that one, but you'll follow him, check him out, look at his Instagram and all his social media platforms, so you could get to know him a little bit too. And if you see him in the streets, say what's up.
Yeah, definitely.
Peace. Thank you. Have a good one.